Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we are up to Daf Hey, Amud Bet, in the middle of the Amud, starting the Gemara, 7 lines down from the wide lines. Today's Amud is being learned. Neschud Rufa Shelema, of Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, Yael Bat Loren Esther Shoshana. That should have Refuah Shelema, and also for Hatzala of Arvin Netanel Ben Sonia, that we should hear Yeshua for him. Amen. So we started in the Mishnah speaking about En Ha'edim Zomemin Neherakin Ad Sheigmor Hadin, a machloket between Chachamim and the Sdukim. Sdukim used to say that you only kill an Ed Zomem if you ended up killing the innocent person. And then it turns out that the Edim who testified against him were not even there. Then you kill the Edim Zomemim. But anything short of that, not. Why? Because the Pasuk says, Nefesh Tachat Nafesh. You only take a Nefesh if a Nefesh was taken. Chachamim said, wait, I hear what he's saying, Nefesh Tachat Nefesh. But there's a problem. The problem is, the Pasuk says, V'asitem lo kasher zamam la'asot la'achiv. The brother still is alive. It's clear in the Pasuk like that. But at the same time, we also agree with you that Nefesh Tachat Nefesh means a life for a life. So how do you reconcile this apparent stira? Say, Chachamim, no problem. V'asitem lo kasher zamam la'asot la'achiv means exactly what it says. If you already killed the innocent person, you do not kill the edim, because kasher zamam lo kasher asa. But you only kill the edim if they wanted to and they didn't, but they accomplished that the bedin already paskined that this guy is chayav. So, for instance, if the edim come, the edim zomimim, the false liars, they come and say, Reuben killed Shimon. They gave the edut, right? So the bedin, of course, is going to. No, so what do they want to do? They're trying to get Reuben killed. So the bedin has a whole process of the rishot v'chakirot. They go through days and days of scrutinizing the edim to try to find if it's correct, the edut that they give. What day it was, where it was, how it was, what was he wearing, did he have a hat, did he not have a hat, did he have a watch, what type of watch, everything. They would scrutinize them and cross-examine them to try to find falsehood in the edim. Then, if everything adds up, then they paskin that this guy Reuben is chayav mita. Imagine if before they paskin, a set of other edim come and say this edim are false because they were with us, they were not even there. Do we kill the edim? No. Because there was no psak on Reuben based on their edut. Even though that they are trying to get Reuben killed, still not considered kasher zamam v'lo kasher asa, because it's not nefesh tachat nefesh. In other words, Chachamim agree with the tzdukim that nefesh tachat nefesh has to be life for a life. But it's not mamash life for a life, because if you already killed this guy, you don't kill them. But when you paskin on this guy that he should be put to death, that's the window that if edim mezimim come, the second group of edim come, then you kill the first group of edim. That's the Mishnah. Now says the Gemara, Tana beribi omer. We spoke about this last time. Usually Rashi says in Masechet Chulin, Daf Yud Aleph, many other places in Shas also, that Beribi is a person that was very chashuv, right? You have names for it other places as well. Chacham Echad over here, it says. Tana Beribi Omer. It was the name of a person, Beribi, over here. He says differently here than other places. This was his name. Beribi was his name. Lo hargu neheragin. So he says, he's wondering to himself. He says, the halacha is, lo hargu neheragin. If the edim zomemim, they accomplished that the bedin paskin on this guy that he should get killed, but they didn't kill him yet. that's when we kill the Edim Zomemim, when they are found to be false. That's when we call Hargu, but if they already accomplished that this guy got killed, then we don't kill them, right? So his father asks him, right? Amar Aviv, Beni, Lav Kal Vachomer hu. Says, what kind of sense does this make? It should be a Kal Vachomer. It's a logical discourse that you should kill him if he killed, because if he's trying to kill Reuben, if they are trying to kill Reuben, and they get to the psak din that Reuben is chayav mitah, then you kill them, even before you killed Reuben. So if you even killed Reuben, isn't it a logical discourse that you should for sure kill the two Edim? They got somebody killed. In other words, we have 13 principles that we use for the drashot of the mitzvot, right? Rabbi Ishmael, we say every morning, hopefully, right? B'shlosha esrei midot haTorah nidreshet. V'kal v'chomer, mamash, the first is kal v'chomer. If this is so, for sure this one should be so. So why isn't this going against one of the 13 principles? Right? He says, I understand, but it's going against the principles of the drasha of the Gemara. So says the Gemara, no. Amar lo, he tells him, Abba, limatanu rabenu. By the way, in Hilchot Kivud Avaim, if your father says something, or your Rebbe says something, even the father, if he says something that is, for instance, not correct, right? Or he does something against Shulchan Aruch, what do? It's time to brag, right? Oh, Shulchan Aruch, siman, kach v'kach. No, you can't say that. If a father makes a mistake, right, or misses something, you're supposed to say, limatanu, you don't remember, Abba, you told me this. You showed it to me in Shulchan Aruch, or you said it sometime. In truth, it could be that he never really said it. But that's the respectful way of saying an argument to your father. You say, oh, you taught me this halacha. You may not be thinking about it right now, but here is the halacha that you taught me. So here is what he says. Limatanu rabenu. You, my master, you taught me this. She'en onshin min adin. That we can't punish someone based on logical discourse. By punishment, you have to have it explicitly mentioned, right? You can't do it just from logic. And here is the Braita that proves that. The Tanya, we learned in the Braita, Ish asher yikach et achoto bat aviv o bat imo. We're speaking about a sister in the Parasha of Arayot, that you cannot marry your sister. Now, what does sister mean? Does it mean a sister from one side, only from the father, the paternal sister, or the maternal sister, or both, right? So says the Gemara, the Braita says, how do I know which sister is this talking about? Is it only Bat Aviv, or is it Bat Imo? Ish asher yikach et achoto Bat Aviv, the pasuk says, the daughter of your father, the paternal, or Bat Imo, or maternal, only the daughter of your mother, but not your father. That is considered the parasha of Arayot. So says the Gemara, En li ela bat aviv shelo bat imo, toda rabba. O bat imo shelo bat aviv. I only know from the pasuk either the paternal or only the maternal. How do I know if it's both bat aviv u bat imo? But if it's both of them, minayin, how do I know? So wait a second. If I'm telling you that your paternal sister, that you only share a father, is considered your sister, or your maternal sister, you only share a mother, the fathers are two different people, it's also considered your sister, wouldn't I draw a conclusion that if I have a sister that we both share the father and the mother, a regular sister, that should be considered my sister? That's like Kal vachomer ben beno shel kal vachomer. That's pashut, right? And yet the Braita asks, it says, how do I know? I don't know. If someone marries their full sister, not the half sister, right? If someone marries their full sister, that should also be included in this punishment. So says the Gemara, Talmud Lomar, we need a pasuk for it. We can't learn it just from a logical discourse. We need mamash a pasuk. And the pasuk is, Ervat achoto gila. You need an additional pasuk over here, right? Ad shelo yomar, yesh li bedin, im anash al bat aviv shelo bat imo, bat imo shelo bat aviv ubat imo, lo kol sheken. If he doesn't say, if the pasuk wouldn't say, ervat achoto gila, wouldn't I know from a logical discourse that if only your half-sister from paternal side, or your half-sister from maternal side, you get punished? Isn't it kol sheken that it should be the same halacha for your full sister from both sides? Of course it is. So what does the pasuk teach me by saying ervat achoto gila? That halamadta she'ein onshin min hadin, that you cannot, in Torah, in the laws of Torah, you cannot punish from a logical discourse to draw conclusions that, oh, if the Torah says you get punished by maternal or by paternal, so then both full sisters should be kol sheken. You don't do that. You need a pasuk for it. So says the Gemara, onesh shamanu azhara minayin. How about the azhara, the law of itself? This is the previous pasuk is about giving an onesh. How about the isur itself? So says the Gemara, Talmud lomar, ervat achotcha bat avicha o bat imecha. When the pasuk says the love, the isur of marrying a sister, it says two separate things of half sister from paternal, half sister from mamash. The pasuk speaks out every single one of them, and the Gemara is going to say, why do you need to speak out every single one of them? Just say bat avicha or bat imecha, and I know everything, right? But the pasuk does not do that. Look at what the pasuk says. Let's read it together. Ervat achotcha, the erva of your sister, bat avicha, paternal half sister, or bat imecha, maternal half sister. En li ela bat aviv shelo bat imo, ubat imo shelo bat aviv. I only know, says the Braita, half sister from father's side, half sister from mother's side. But bat aviv ubat imo minayin. How do I know a full sister that you share both parents? Talmud lomar ervat bat eshet avicha moled avicha achotcha. You have an extra pasuk teaching you that. Why do you need the extra pasuk? I mean, if there's one logical discourse in the whole world, is this. I mean, if I tell you half sister from this side, half sister, every brain dead person with 1 gram of brain in their mind, they would know that it's the same din by a full sister. But the pasuk goes to say another pasuk to teach you a full sister. Why? You see, from here says the Gemara, even though that at shelo yomar yeshli min adin ma'im huzhar al bat imo, if I know that there is a lav on a half sister paternal or half sister maternal, shelo bat aviv ubat aviv shelo bat imo, bat aviv ubat imo lo kol sheken, wouldn't it be a logical discourse for a full sister? Halamata. The reason the Torah says it is she'ein mazhirin midadin. You can't be over on a love from a kal vachomer. Kal vachomer is to apply things in practical sense, but you can't create a love or create an onesh punishment from just the kal vachomer. You can't do that, right? So that's what we learn over here. So says the Gemara, going back on the Mishnah. Mishnah said that you cannot kill someone until Gemardin, right? That's what we learned in the Mishnah, correct? It means if the Edim came to the Bedin and they said Reuben killed Shimon, we only kill the Edim when they're found guilty, when already the Bedin had paskined, have given a verdict for this person to be killed. How about, maybe that's only for murder, maybe that's only for nefashot, dinei nefashot. It's very chamur, right? You need the betin of 23 dayanim. You can't just kill a person with 3 dayanim. You need a betin of 23 dayanim, and then even if one of them has a limud zechut, you don't kill the person. It's a lot of chumrot. We take the life of a person very seriously. So maybe only there, by edim zomi. How about malkut, right? You want to get the guy malkut. These 2 edim came. They said Reuben is chayav malkut. And then 5 minutes later, a second group come and said, you're lying because you were with us. There was no psak din on Reuben yet from the bedin. There's no verdict that you're going to lash him. Do you give the edim lashes or not? Or maybe you should wait for psak din, even in the case of Malkut, even though that's no life-threatening issue. So says the Gemara, Chayave Malkuyot minayin. How do I know that even by Chayave Malkut, the halacha is only you give the edim Malkut if the psak din was given, if the verdict was given from the bedin? Talmud Lomar, the Gemara says, Rasha. There is a Gezerah Shava between the two dinim that we know, that the Pasuk equates them, right? Now, this is not a logical discourse. This is, Kal Vachomer is a logical discourse. Here is, a din, and the Torah copies and pastes that din by Kal Vachomer. So teach you that the same applies over here. So it says Rasha. What's Rasha? One of them is, the first one is about Malkut, right? I'm reading from the side now. That's when a person gets Malkut, the Torah calls the person Rasha. And who else is called the Rasha in the Torah? Someone that killed. Rotzeach. The second pasuk I'm reading again from the side. Rotzeach is also called Rasha. Why does the pasuk carefully call this guy a Rasha and that guy a Rasha? To tell you that the halachot of Reshaim, Rasha, is coming to teach you that their discourse in halacha is the same. What is the same? That just like by a Rotzeach, you would be very careful not to punish the edim until the verdict was given. By Malkut is the same thing. Even though that they tried to get Reuben a set of lashes, we only give them a set of lashes if the bedin already had given a verdict, a guilty verdict on Reuben. Short of that, if earlier than the verdict, the second group come and says the first one was with them, the first one just walks away unsketched. Of course, they did an avera, but they don't get punished kasher zamam v'lo kasher hasa from the same halacha of the Mishnah of nefesh tachad nefesh. Fine, so says the Gemara. Now, story time. So says the Gemara, what happened here is, based on this din of the Sdukim, right? There was a story with, I skipped the half a line over here. Says the Gemara, she'ein minayin ata rotzeach, Tanya, Rasha chayave galuyot. This is a half a line I skipped. Chayave galuyot minayin. How do I know chayave galuyot is the same thing, right? That means the first edim came and said Reuben has to go to galut because he killed someone accidentally, right? So he has to go to galut. And they were proven wrong. How do I know that this is the same thing? Because this is interesting. This is between a Ritzicha and Malkut. Is very different than the other ones. Says the Gemara, Atya rotzeach. That also we learn from a Gezerah Shava of rotzeach, because you have a pasuk of rotzeach by Chayave Galut, Lanus Shama Rotzeach Asher Yitzach, right? That is in the parsha of accidental murder. And then you have by a deliberate murder, you have the same thing. Ve'im bichli barzel hikau ve'yamot rotzeachu. The pasuk calls this guy rotzeach and that guy rotzeach to compare the halacha. Of course, it's not the same halacha because one of them gets killed, one of them goes to galut. So why does the pasuk compare them together? To teach you that just like by a deliberate kill, you're called the rotzeach, and it has halachot for edim zomemim that you only kill them if the psak din was given. Even by accidental kill, also it's only when the verdict was given. Okay, so it says now the Gemara. Tanya, we learned the following story. Amar Rabbi Yehuda ben Tabai. Rabbi Yehuda ben Tabai killed somebody, right? Why did he kill him? Because the guy was Ed Zomim, right? And it was after the verdict. So it was Machloket Sdukim and Chachamim. We said this already before. So what happened was, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tabai was the of Bedin, and two Edim were trying to get Reuben killed. They said Reuben killed Shimon, and the Beit Din had given a psak din that Reuben has to get killed. Remember, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tabai is in the time of Bayit Sheni, right? So they had the Beit HaMikdash, they had the Sanhedrin, right? And the Beit Din had given a verdict of killing Reuben, and then Edim come and say, this guy, one of the Edim, was with us in Florida. Well, it's like, well, what are you saying that you were here in Yerushalayim? You were not even there. So Sedukim would say what? Sedukim would say, you don't kill him because you didn't kill Reuben yet. And Yehuda ben Tabai said, I killed the guy. I swear to God, I killed the guy to show that the Sedukim are wrong, right? He says, it's a language of Chas v'Shalom cursing himself if it's not true what he says, right? He says, I should see Nechama. Now, two pshatim over here. One pshat is that he was saying, Chas v'Shalom, he should lose his children and accept Tanchumin, just like a Avel. You know, people come to be Menachem. He's cursing himself if he's not right. He says, I should see Nechama if what I'm saying is not true. Or the pshat is, he's saying, Lashon Sagi Nahor, right? He doesn't want to say it in a negative way, but he really means, Lo er'eh benechama. I shouldn't see the Nechama of Yerushalayim, the Nechama of Tzion, right? Which is actually very interesting because the Maharsha says in Masechet Chagiga, Daf Tet Zayin, the Maharsha says regarding this story, because that's what the Tosafot says there. The Tosafot, Masechet Chagiga says this. Pshat, Maharsha asks, says, wait a second. They lived in the time of Beit HaMikdash. They had the Beit HaMikdash. What do you mean, Lo er'eh benechama? You have the Beit HaMikdash, you have the Korban Tamid, you have all. Says the Maharsha, because Bayit Sheni was not the same thing as Bayit Rishon. Like the Gemara says in Yuma Daf Chaf Aleph, the Gemara says this in multiple places, the Tosafot bring this as well, that the Bayit Sheni was missing 5 elements, or there was no Urim V'Tumim, there was no Aaron, there was no Kruvim. A lot of things were missing from Bayit Sheni. So the Ritba in some place writes that he found that they were in at least some periods of time in Bayit Sheni, they were still fasting on Tisha B'Av. Even though that they had the Beit HaMikdash, they still were fasting Tisha B'Av for the Bayit Rishon. The Gemara says when they built the Bayit Sheni and they started, the Shekhinah was not in Bayit Sheni. When they started operating Bayit Sheni, even though that Bayit Sheni was more glorious building than the Bayit Rishon, if you could believe that, but all the Zekenim who remembered the glory of Bayit Rishon, they were crying. All the youngsters, they were so excited for Bayit Sheni. All the Zekenim who had seen Bayit Rishon, they were crying because it was just not the same, right? So you could understand why they were saying, I want to see the Nechama of Tzion, the real Nechama of Bayit Shalishi. So you can understand why Yehuda ben Tabai would curse himself. So I should not see Nechama if what I'm saying is not true, right? This was a big fight between the Sedukim. You find this in Gemara and Yuma in many places. The Sedukim had their own thing, and they felt that they were the real thing. They were more machmir in many things than the Chachamim. They just had a different thing. Karaites, they were even worse because Karaites they looked down at Chachamim, right? The Rambam writes in a place, it's hard to believe that in some places they were so strong to the degree that the Rambam writes that if it wasn't because of him using the arm of the government enforcement of the King Salah ad-Din, and if it wasn't because of Rab Sadia Gaon, who also had the king's reinforcement, because he was considered like the Resh Galuta, if it was because of me or him, says the Rambam, the Karaites would destroy the Chachamim. That's how strong they were. Even in Paras, historically, the Karaites were very strong until the Mughals came. The Mughals came, and the attack of the Mughals, they basically destroyed somehow the 1/3 of the Jewish community was completely destroyed and dismantled, and among them were Kimat, all of the Karaites were killed. So that was that part of it was a bracha, but it was a very big challenge until like 700-800 years ago. This was something very, very big. So you can understand why it would take a shvua. I did it against them. It was a big back and forth in the challenge. So says the Gemara. להוציא מליבן של סדוקים. I killed this guy, להוציא מליבן של סדוקים. To prove a point to the סדוקים. שהיו אומרים, because the סדוקים, as we learned, they used to say, אין העדים זוממים נהרגים עד שיהרג הנידון. They don't kill עדים זוממים until they killed this guy. Amar lo, Shimon ben Shetach tells him, Shimon ben Shetach was the brother-in-law of Agrippus Melech, he was the brother-in-law of the king, and he was the Gdol HaChachamim, right? All the Chachamim in his time were killed, murdered by his brother-in-law. Whole story. But he tells him, he swears back to him, he says, Rebbe Nechama, I'm going to curse myself if you didn't kill an innocent person. You killed an innocent, you should not have killed this Ed Zomim. Why? All of us, of course, around the table know, because we learned it. En edim zomemin ne'eragin ad sheyazumu shenehem. It's a Mishnah. You made a mistake. Yes, correct. You went against the Stukim because of Rasha. Fine. But you missed a different Mishnah. You can't kill a person when only one Ed was found Zomem and you go kill that one person. Halachat of Edim Zomim is only when both of the Edim, all of the Edim were found to be Zomemim. You spilled an innocent blood. Shahare Amru Chachamim. By the way, the Mefarshim asked, the Ramban over here asks the question, says, wait a second, how can this happen? The Gemara in Yevamot Tzaditet says, Afilu behemtan shel tzadikim, even a behema of a tzadik would not stumble upon an isur. And here you have Yehuda ben Tabai, one of the tremendous Tanaim, and he made a mistake of spilling the blood. Ramban says, no, this guy most definitely was chayav mitah for a different reason. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu had him killed like this. Like we have an example of this, almost exact parallel to this in Gemara Masechet Makkot Pei Gimel. There the Gemara is speaking about Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon, the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that he was appointed chief of police basically, and he was going around catching ganavim and killing them. And one time he got upset with someone for a different reason, and he had him put in jail, and unbeknownst to him, they killed him too. And he was so upset at himself that he caused the death of this person. And then people came and said, no, him and his father, you don't want to know what they did on Yom Kippur with Na'ara Me'urasa. You don't ask, right? Don't open their file is a can of worms. So he felt better because the guy was Chayav Mita anyways, but the way it came around was a very backhanded way HaKadosh Baruch Hu had it come. So that's what the Ramban says about this. But nevertheless, he says to him, he says, what do you mean you killed him? You have to be both edim zomimim. Ve'en lokim, even lashes. You don't give them until both of them are zomimim. Miyad kibel of this Yehuda ben Tabai immediately accepted upon himself that going forward in his life, never in his life is going to paskin anything unless he's with Shimon ben Shetach together, that if he makes a mistake, he's going to correct him. And not only that, but all of his days, every single day, he would go to the Bet HaKvarot, to the kever of this guy that he killed, and he would be sobbing and crying, voices he heard to people outside. Now the truth is he was sobbing, he was crying, but people didn't know who it is. They said maybe he is doing tshuva, maybe it's the voice of the neshama of this person, whatever that means, right? For some reason the Gemara feels it's very important to say which one it was. And he would tell them, he said, no, it's Koli Sheli, it's my voice, I'm crying. And he says, you'll see that when I die, when he dies, he says, right? Lemachar hu met, tomorrow he will die. That means he doesn't want to say it on himself. That Yehuda ben Tabai will die. En kolo nishma, and then this voice would never be there again. But then the Gemara says, Rab Acha b'reh Rava said to Rav Ashi, says that wouldn't be a proof. Of course, we believe Yehuda ben Tabai that he was the one that was crying, but his logical argument is not such a proof, because we find many times that the person that dies, he could go up there and appease and accomplish things. We have this in the Gemara in Chagiga, again, Daf Zayin, by Rabbi Meir and Elisha ben Avuya. This famous story of Elisha ben Avuya, then Elisha Acher, the Rebbe of Rabbi Meir, that when he died, he was a kofer, right? He died as a kofer, and Rabbi Meir said, when I go up, when I die, I'm going to take him from oblivion to Gehinam. I'm going to put him through Gehinam to go through process of kapara. And the sign would be, as soon as I die, you'll see smoke coming out of his kever. Right? And then, generations, this smoke apparently was coming out until Rabbi Yochanan said, well, it's not kavod. One of us died, and this. He says, when I go, I'm going to take him out of Gehinam and put him in Gan Eden, and the sign would be, as soon as I die, his smoke is going to stop. So you see, the Mefarshim say, you see that a person that passes away, he could still accomplish things. So maybe he went up there and appeased him, and that's why this crying voice stopped. But be that as it may, that concludes our Gemara, and Be'ezrat Hashem will continue starting the next Mishnah in the days to come.